Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with another request, actually. This is a request put in, I think, last weekend by a great guy on here, TheHorrorBoy. Excuse me. TheHorrorBoy. Definitely go check out his channel. He's got some great stuff, great reviews. Yeah, check out his channel, why we still have our channels. FTC, COPPA, deleting everyone because it doesn't make much. Fuck them. At some point, I'm gonna make a video about just my thoughts on FTC and COPPA and what I'm gonna do and whatever. It's not this video though. So yeah, while we still have YouTube, go check out TheHorrorBoy. You know, horror reviews of all eras, and he really knows his stuff, and great channel. He requested that I do this film and its sequel, and these are movies I had heard of. I had seen them on Netflix. I didn't really know what they were, but that is Creep from 2014. I just saw this one. I'm gonna do the second one when I see that. Now, Creep, I don't really know why I put it off. I thought it was just one of those newer, like, Netflix films, I guess, like The Terrifier, or, I don't really know what I thought it was. I kind of have an unfair bias when it comes to newer horror films. And especially, I looked into it, and I was like, it's got 92 on Rotten Tomatoes. That's cool. And I was like, found footage psychological horror? That's neat. But then I saw produced by Jason Blum, and I'm not a fan of Blumhouse at all. Which I think I might have to change that opinion, because I'm not a fan of the supernatural Blumhouse films. Paranormal Activities, shit like that. I fucking hate newer supernatural paranormal horror films. This one is not at all. In fact, this movie was quite original. Hadn't really seen anything like it, and it was very effective. In fact, there were stuff in this movie that I haven't seen done that well for scares since Halloween '78. The only thing since then I would say is probably The Strangers, which I really enjoy, but I know a lot of people hate. But anyway, so yeah, 2014 film. It's directed by Patrick Brice, and it stars, really, there's only two people in the whole film. Mark Duplass and Patrick Brice. And no, I didn't even really notice it till I looked at this. It said starring, and I was like, oh yeah, there really is literally no other person in this film. I mean, and it is forgivably short. It's only 77 minutes, but it's a movie that you want to keep watching because it's very interesting. Basically, Patrick Brice plays this guy, Aaron, who I don't really know if he's a filmmaker or if he's just a guy with a camera, but he is hired by a man who calls himself Joseph, played by Mark Duplass. Because Mark Duplass, he's about to have a child. He had cancer. It went into remission, but then it came back and is inoperable. So he wants to do one of those, sort of like a video diary for when his son is born, and he can watch it. He can kind of see what his father was like while he was alive. And just as the film goes on, Aaron, Patrick Brice, the camera guy, learns that Joseph isn't quite who he comes off to be. At first, it's kind of innocent. He jumps out and scares Aaron. Kind of talks about some weird personal stuff, like, is there anything you've ever been ashamed of? Or keeps asking him personal things. And then the film really starts to turn, I say probably about 20 minutes or so, when you get, the shot that's on the cover. Because they're in a cabin up out in the woods. Aaron says, I really ought to get going. It's getting late. Because he paid him for like 8 hours, just to document his day for like 8 hours. And we get this shot where he's asking him to come in for a drink. And that's where the movie slowly gets into like the psychological portion. He agrees to go in for one drink, but then he tells him this weird story about, because earlier he has this wolf mask that he calls Peach Fuzz, that he says was something his dad made. But he tells him this story about how, his internet was really slow. And, well, I don't really want to get into the whole film because, it is kind of new and it is on Netflix. I encourage people to go see it. So, I guess now I'll get into spoilers. But, it's 77 minutes, but it is a slow burn, but is really, I think psychological horror is a term that gets thrown around very loosely, especially now. This is a movie that just kind of draws on your nerves and sort of your primal fears. And it's very violating in a, not like a Last House on the Left kind of way, but more in just, if you want, if you're a fan of the original Halloween, like parts like my favorite scene in Halloween, when Annie's on the phone in the kitchen, shows her in the kitchen on the phone, cuts to Jamie Lee Curtis, cuts back to Annie, Michael's in the background outside the window looking in at her, cuts back to Jamie Lee Curtis, cuts back to Annie, and he's gone. No music to let you know he's there. Sort of stuff like that, just because there's no music. So, right there, no jump scares. Which, that's a lie. There is some, because Joseph does like to jump out and scare Aaron a few times, but the stuff that's really supposed to be scary, no jump scares, no music, so that really helps. I'm really glad HorrorBoy requested this. So definitely, if you haven't seen Creep, go to Netflix and watch it, because it is one of the better horror films of the last 10 years, without a doubt. And I'm not the biggest fan of found footage, save for, people are gonna laugh, but Blair Witch. I'd probably say Blair Witch is my favorite found footage film. And yeah, I do like Cannibal Holocaust more as a movie, but you can tell that's a movie. There's traditional filmmaking within that. I mean, start to finish found footage. I would probably say Blair Witch and then Wreck would be like my favorite ones. This one is now up there. I really enjoyed Creep. And that one word title sums up this movie. It's fucking creepy. This guy is a creep and he does it flawlessly. But with that, I'm going to go into spoilers. So go check out Creep. Spoilers now. Right when he goes in for a drink, he tells him that story about how he bought the mask because he found out his wife was looking at animal pornography. So he said he had to go to work, but he didn't. He went out and he bought a mask, broke into the house and tied her up and raped her. But he says he raped her, but at the same time she didn't fight back and she was really into it. And he never told her it was him. So that kind of freaked Aaron out and he couldn't find his keys. And there's different points where the film kind of, it's one of those like step by step horror films. It's like, okay, like like at first it was the whole time with him just sort of talking about personal stuff, like in the beginning of the film. Then it was like the rape story. Then it was how he couldn't find his keys. And then it was he gets that phone call from Joseph's Angela, who he thought was his wife. Turns out is his sister, and she says, "You know, you got to get out of the house." It just keeps elevating, and one thing the movie did very well was at that point it totally shifted, because I thought what was going to happen was Aaron was going to be stuck in that house with him, and that was going to be the events of the film. No, that's only the first half. The second half is Aaron is now in his own home, and he's being violated at home. He gets these weird, um, like, burnt DVDs from Joseph. Like, first one is him digging a hole with some trash bags, almost like a threat. Then he gets a box with a knife, a stuffed wolf, and a locket that, you know, is engraved with their names or initials. And so it just keeps, it's sort of like one of those, like, pardon my analogy, but, you know, like the Cable Guy with Jim Carrey, just obsessively creepy, you know, it just keeps elevating. And the best part of the film, which, and this is what I mean when I talked about Halloween and The Strangers. A few points in the film, Aaron talks about these nightmares he's been having about him and Joseph, and he hears a noise. So he gets up, he leaves the camera, but he gets up and he walks around the house, kind of like, you know, like who's there? But he's standing, and you can't see his door. He has a glass door, and right when he walks away, you just see Joseph standing there, like right up against the glass. And again, where it's found footage, there's no music, so you don't get that really cheap, obnoxious jump scare. It's just that really raw, realistic, like, oh my god, he's standing right there. That is effective. That is creepy. If that had been a regular Blumhouse film, we would have had louder than hell music, zoom right in, or shaky cam, or editing, just really pounding it in your face that he's standing there and you have to be scared. I thought that was very effective. I also got to give credit to the ending. The ending was really ballsy. He gets another DVD. Like, the head of his bed is here, windows here, the screen is cut, and there's another DVD. And it's of Joseph's, you know, apologizing and saying, hey, meet me here tomorrow at this park, public place, I had nothing to worry about. And he goes. He's like, because he feels bad for him. And that's another thing, the performances are excellent. Aaron is the everyman who is reacting the way the audience would. And Joseph is a very convincing creep, a psycho. He's very, very polite. He can be very, very intense. He does just subtle things like with his face or his body language, just very naturalistic performances. And I give this movie all the credit in the world for that. The ending, he leaves the camera in his car, and I mean, he's quite a ways away. He, like, down at the bottom of the screen. And this part takes a while, but it's like perfectly calculated. Of like, okay, he's sitting in a bench, back to, Joseph walks up, and he just stands there. He puts on the peach fuzz mask, stands there, reaches in his, you know, he's wearing a trench coat, he grabs an axe. Because an axe plays a bigger part in the film, because they talk about it earlier on, like one of their first conversations is, like, Hey, can I ask you, like, when you saw that axe, did you think I was gonna kill you with it? So, like, it starts with small, innocent, but off-putting stuff like that, and it builds up to this. He takes out the axe, walks closer, kind of raises it, and I mean, everything is like paused after every little movement. And when he hits him in the head with the axe, one, I wasn't expecting it. I was, but I didn't think it was going to be done that well. Two, again, I'm glad this movie's found footage because it was done, you know, no crazy zooms, no loud music, no stupid bullshit. The sound of the axe connecting with the head, it was like off in the distance, kind of a muffled sound, but it sounded realistic. And it was very snuffy. It looked realistic. They also didn't go over the top with any sort of CGI. Like, I don't really know how they did it. It must have been foam because he looks like he really did hit him. Very effective scene. And then it ends with Joseph talking to the camera, saying, pretty much, I knew you were filming. I knew you had cops on speed dial. And, he goes on to talk about how you never turned around because you trusted me. You knew nothing was going to happen. And then he has this sort of haunting line that I liked where he's like, you are my favorite. Then he gets really close. He's like, of all of them. And then it ends with him on the phone talking to someone, pretty much hiring a new camera guy. And he goes to this closet of all these VHS tapes and DVDs that are all labeled. So he's been doing this a while with many people. And then it ends. And you get this great, like, heavy metal end credits. I would say this is the best movie of its kind since Blair Witch. And, I mean, it directed by Patrick Brice. Mark Duplass was also a producer with Jason Blum. Story by Patrick Brice and Mark Duplass. Starring Mark Duplass and Patrick Brice. So, I mean, these guys pretty much did everything but the editing. And I thought it was very effective. I mean, it's just one of those simplicity. Yeah, you see more in this than you do like Blair Witch, but what they show you is still very subtle. Like, I would chalk this movie's effectiveness up to the performances, which was great. The perfect, like, systematic, calculated, like, gradual ascension of events. Perfectly, it is perfectly gradual. Like, each thing is just a little bit bigger than the last one. It's not shifting in tone or anything. The two big major scare events, like Aaron searching the house and Joseph standing there the whole time, that's still my favorite part because you don't get shit like that anymore. If this was a traditional film, like I said, you would have had a jump scare. There are jump scares in this, but it's made for fun, which is what a jump scare should be, for fun. It's when he's teasing Aaron. But when you get movies like the new It movie or any other Blumhouse film, you get jump scares that are the main scares, and it sucks. This movie completely deserved its 92%. I mean, it's just one of those... It's like movies like this only exist in independence. It goes along with that Lighthouse movie, because I don't think Lighthouse, which I haven't seen yet, I really want to. Short attention span cinema. We can't have a movie with no music. We can't have long periods with no dialogue. We can't have character study. We can't have tension. We can't have a horror movie with no jump scares, because today's audience needs fast pace, needs action, needs. That's why all we get are like Fast and Furious movies, Rock and Kevin Hart comedies. And for horror films, we get shit like The Bye Bye Man and La Llorona and Truth or Dare and stupid shit like that. Doctor Sleep was a diamond in the rough, because that's made by a good horror filmmaker. But I'm going all over the place. I can't thank HorrorBoy enough for requesting this. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I would love to own this. I can't wait to see the sequel. We need more modern movies like this. We need more found footage movies like this. Forget Paranormal Activities. Forget Grave Encounters. You know, exorcism movies. I did like Deborah Logan, but all the other ones, found footage, this is where it's at. You know, I would say, other than Cannibal Holocaust, like the real, like, could be real because it's all found footage, Blair Witch, Creep, and Wreck. Those are my 3 favorite ones. I just saw, it's not even on, saw it for the first time and I loved it. So HorrorBoy, thank you very much. Hope you all enjoyed this review, and HorrorBoy, I hope you enjoyed it, since this video is for you. But anyway, thank you for watching.